Welcome to Socializing Security, where every week we have a discussion about security, compliance, and beyond.
Our goal is to learn and grow by socializing each week's topic with each other, our guests, and with you.
A quick compliance note, this podcast is meant for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal or regulatory advice.
We're glad you've joined us, and we hope you'll learn along with us.
All right, and we're back for another episode of Socializing Security. It's one of my favorite types of episodes where we come in a little bit unprepared, I'll say.
Milou's favorite episodes are the ones where we don't prepare beforehand.
That is how I do pretty much my favorite things. So yeah, it's spontaneity.
That's a generational difference, I think, right there. If I could put a marker in the timeline and just say before this time people were this way and after this time people are this way, gross generalizations of course, but the YOLO life, God, I can't even say it.
YOLO, yeah, for sure. You only live once is what YOLO stands for, just since I'm the acronym queen over here. YOLO. I also really identified with one of my girlfriends in college. She coined SYFI, which was senior year fuck it. And that was like when we were seniors in college, and she would be like, oh, I have a paper due, and like all of these other fun things are happening because it's like senior spring or whatever, and like you're supposed to prioritize your like fun stuff and not your work stuff and whatever that was. Like she genuinely, like her ethos was SYFI. And so sometimes in my now like career and life as a business owner and stuff, if I'm super just like overwhelmed, I'll just say SYFI. Like I need to just go do the fun thing, and like the work stuff is going to be here, and I'm sure they're going to be complaining at me later. It's fine. It's SYFI, senior year, fuck it.
And that's how we started this episode. Like literally, that must have been what was going through your head when you said, we're just going to hit record right now.
Yep. Well, as I am saying that, I'm looking and noticing my mic is not anywhere where I normally have it. So how is my audio? Is it okay?
I didn't even do audio checks. This is how this is going. I mean,
Okay.
obviously, I can hear you okay. So
Great, then we'll fix it later. It's fine.
We'll take it in post.
Okay, we are trying to just collaborate and kind of reset and just honestly be two perfectionists that walk into a podcast again. We already have a podcast. It's almost been 2 years now. So if this is your first episode, welcome. We're super excited to have you. My family members
go back an episode and listen to that one first.
No, I'm going to say hi, welcome. And then you can go listen to any of the other ones that we have. Generally, we're relatively organized, and that's really just Brian, honestly. He keeps us really on top of our stuff. So I show up kind of like a bit of a tornado. And then we record. But I will say, Brian, my family was surprised to hear that we're in the 70s of episodes.
Yeah. This will probably be in the mid-70s when we release it.
And I will say I had a individual that I met who I got to pull up the podcast recently and kind of introduce them to Socializing Security. And they gave me a major compliment that I think you should hear too, where they were like, how the heck do you guys have time for this? We've had a podcast for 5 years and we only have 20 episodes.
We recorded 20 episodes before we released any. It was part of it, or at least had them outlined. I don't know if we had recorded all 20, but that was
outlined. We had not recorded 20 before.
We've generally been pretty good about our weekly cadence, or getting ahead of it when we know we need to. So we record this, the holiday season's on the horizon. That's a topic we haven't discussed yet, is that we need to redouble some effort so that we maybe don't drop any weeks in between Christmas and New Year's and Thanksgiving and all that.
The best with the two perfectionists thing, because I think we both are like this in the sense that ultimately it's no big deal if our podcast airs a little bit later. Like it's not the end of the world, but like you've made it such a like we are
I'm
posting.
a consistency person. I need that consistency. That's important to me.
It's good because otherwise it turns into chaos, which like I kind of live in that sometimes. And so I really love that I'm like, no, Brian holds me accountable because I'm like, no, like I've committed. We are doing this at 6 a.m., which that is not
we
my
have never
time.
done the posting of the episode.
The episode goes at 6 a.m.
Maybe we should start recording at 6 a.m.
No, I don't think either of us are good. Are you good in the mornings? I basically work Pacific time.
I mean, most of my team at work is, but not most of my team. A good chunk of my team is, but yeah, you're lucky if I'm up at 6 a.m.
But I think you're more of a night owl than I am regards. Like, I think you're editing late or whatever.
Yeah, that's the time that works the best for me. But sometimes it rushes. So if you catch mistakes, they're probably mine because I was trying to get to bed at a decent hour and not starting on editing until after 10 o'clock at night.
Or to give you some credit, it's more like I have reached out being like, I am so sorry this thing came up and I no longer can edit or do what I need to do to support us. And then you'll be like, it's fine. Don't worry about it. I got it. I don't have 10,000 other things on my plate that I'm already dealing with. Like, Brian is one of genuinely the nicest human beings I work with on a regular day. So he is an all-star.
Thank you for that. And very uncomfortable with praise. So let's move on. So you hit record telling me we're just going to talk about the podcast. I'll maybe do a little future thinking. This conversation started where, we were looking at kind of where we are as a podcast, looking at some of the stats and stuff and realizing that, it's not quite where we want it to be. We'd love a little bit more downloads, a little bit more views across platforms.
Shares. Share. Please share. That is the most helpful thing for the algorithm these days. Please, if you see us on LinkedIn or YouTube, like if you don't want to subscribe, I get it. Just like share it out. Like send it to your coworkers, send us in a Slack. Honestly, that I think is the way that organic social media happens right now. Like repost things.
Yeah, it's friends recommending things to friends. It's just like anything else has ever been. Movies become popular because friends want to go see them together. Books become popular because people hand them around, share them with each other. So, and we're not ones that normally end every episode with, hey, go smash that subscribe button and hit that like button and share it with all your friends. We'd love those things. But we haven't really been asking for them.
We should do those things. It's because we're actively like, we respect people's privacy and we care so much about being like, you do you and like whatever works for you. And also, though, we are trying to build a brand and a business at the same time where socializing security is something you and I do together, but it benefits both of us. And we should. It was just mind-boggling to me that I like sometimes I do like if there's an episode that I absolutely loved and I'm not trying to cherry pick, I genuinely I love all of our guests and everything like that. I've been incredibly shocked and honored by anybody that wants to just come talk to us when we reach out. We have had some really amazing talent. 2024, 25, it just keeps getting better for me. But the fact that my family members even are just like, wait, you're already in the 70s? And I'm like, guys, I thought you would I thought I took my parents' phone at some point and was like, I definitely hit and I did the 5 stars, whatever, And I'm pretty sure I go to Spotify and I think it's gonna. Sorry, that was my Lily Allen playlist.
Edit point.
I mean, or not, but yeah, definitely for sure the song that just came on.
We don't want to get tagged with any sort of takedown notices.
No, love Lily Allen. That was an interesting. All right, I just pulled up Spotify and we have 2 5-star likes on Spotify. I've reviewed one for sure.
I have not done any of them.
Okay, great. So maybe Brent, you want to maybe do a review at some point. I know you're more of the Apple Music person. I personally am probably in Spotify more, but that makes sense given my 2024 love note for them was that they were my favorite AI tool. I will say for the 2025 year, as the up and coming, I'm sure we'll kind of do our lookbook episodes. Recently, they're back at the top spot. You can message friends on Spotify now?
Ugh, I need another social media platform.
And yet, sometimes colleagues, friends, whatever, I've been like, I listen to a song and I'm like, oh, I'm thinking about this person. And I'm like, you know what? Now I didn't realize that I can now send stuff in Spotify. And that's a really interesting conversation we should have for a future episode because that is a huge security gap for companies if they're thinking about approved tools. So Spotify, from my understanding, is pretty a widespread approved tool for IT stacks.
Really? That's interesting.
Yeah, it's at least one that I personally have greenlit pretty much because it's one that most employees have on their laptops regardless, corporate, personal, whatever. So, in your HRIS system or your IT management system, you can greenlight whitelist apps and just say, hey, approved. I'm not going to, I don't want to be doing independent reviews of iTunes or Spotify all the time. So generally there's a couple of apps that all whitelist. Spotify is one of them, but it's been an interesting one because when I saw that, I was like, oh no, I've got to flag this as a risk because now suddenly an approved tool is now also a messaging tool and that probably hasn't been reviewed by teams.
No, it's a little bit of the shadow IT. You've left the shadow IT door open for some aspect of things. And that can definitely shift. One of the talk tracks I like to use is that your security is ever evolving because things change. And this is a fantastic example of all of a sudden the simple music tool has now become a messaging tool, has become a communication platform, social media, whatever category you want to throw it under. It's all of a sudden has a very different risk profile than maybe it used to, especially if it's allowing file transfers. That's a super
I'm going to
scary thing.
stop you from exploring this because this is going to be next week's episode that we'll record. How about that?
Sounds good.
This is the back stuff. This is ideally the episode that we're hoping to record today. This is how we do this, where we're talking about something, where we're meeting with someone, talking about a cool topic, and Brian and I usually be taking notes in the background, being like, oh, a future episode, or we're chatting in the background of the platform that we use, being like, hey, let's make sure we take this note, or, we try to do it in a way that we can still really remain present. That's something I'm really proud of for both of us, is that we try our best when we're recording to just stay present. I will say, when I was editing one of the episodes recently, I saw that I could tell my eyes drifted during one of the episodes. And I was really frustrated at myself because I was like, oh, no, this is something that I know you and I have kind of made as a commitment to one another, as well as our guests. As we're recording, we really try to put ourselves on Do Not Disturb. We don't like to have our personal phones go off or music suddenly start to play in the background or anything like that.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's it comes into we're taking this seriously, and 77 episodes. Hopefully, those of you that listen, watch regularly appreciate that. I hope you do.
That's a lot. I'm gonna say I'm genuinely impressed by us, just because I was looking and I was like, is it in the 70s? Because as I was saying that, I know we had a big thing on LinkedIn and stuff when we did hey, we did a full year of episodes, and what does that look like? And that was a big deal. And I suddenly was like, well, we've really now we're much further than that.
Yeah. And that's just me. I'm particular on that kind of thing. So
in the best way.
The consistency that I set out for makes hitting a number like that maybe not easy, but maybe not even expected. It's somewhere kind of in between those two adjectives, where it becomes you'll get there. As long as you stick to the pattern, as long as you stick to the plan, you'll get there. And we've managed to stick to it. I feel like we've created some really quality content.
No one else is here, but sure. Yeah, I'm nodding my head. It is us. It's it would have been nice to have maybe somebody else weigh in on this one, so that we're not just yeah, we're the best. But I can say I am pleasantly surprised that this is something you and I do as a hobby. We do not get paid for this. I would say this is genuinely, this is how Brian and I spend free time that is not work time. This is a thing that is a lot of time and takes a good amount of commitment. And again, we both try to support one another when the other one is really busy. I personally do believe we are really at this growth phase for this. If we really want to take it to the next level, we absolutely need to bring in somebody to come help us. I know we've already kind of been posting on social media about that, to just get the right fit. And that takes time too. Those are startup growing pains, as much as I say, we are a startup, and this is a startup.
Oh yeah, it's a 2-person shop where we do everything.
It's
we're
instead of me, myself,
and
I.
Business.
It's, I don't know, you and I guess is what it is.
And one thing that we have talked about consistently over the year, 2 years that the two of us have been working on it, is that we want it to be what the listeners, what the audience wants. And I think one of the things that I think it's time for us to do, and I explicitly told you I do not want to talk about any promises that we're going to make, but here I'm going to do it. I want to put together a survey to really understand.
A survey? Can we choose a different word, please?
A quiz? A Cosmo quiz? A Cosmo quiz for Socializing Security?
The second we say survey, the legal team at Socializing Security has a much larger amount of work, but maybe a vibe check. We want to do a vibe check.
We're going to do a vibe query. Anyway, I want to ask all of you out there in the world that may be hearing my voice or seeing my face, what you would like. What would you like to see more of? Which episode types work for you? Which ones do you enjoy? Or maybe there's a mix of them. One of the discussions we had before Milou just hit record was, people actually care about these episodes where we just talk about ourselves and our podcast and what's going on. And unfortunately, I was sitting in front of the data that said, our number 3 episode was the 2 perfectionists walk into a podcast, which honestly, I didn't think was ever going to see the light of day. I thought that was going to be one of our very first. I guess it just kind of revealed the fact that was recorded much, much, much earlier than it was released.
I think I remember the circumstances of that. And I had also been I had just broken my foot or something.
Yeah.
There was a lot of other things that were going on in my personal life I think in yours too. It was just a lot happening.
Yeah. neither of us were really prepared for that episode, to be honest. But, a little bit of time passes and you listen to it and you're like, maybe it wasn't as bad as I thought it was. But it was popular. Like, it's got some of the most downloads on the podcast feed, at least up to this point.
And I think as somebody, I do content creation. I'll say I'm a content creator. Remember when the first time I said that, I think when we were talking in I'll call it our backstage of our podcast, I remember being like, ugh, I don't want to be that. I struggle with that from a privacy perspective. And yet I am now like an influencer on LinkedIn, and I'm an influencer on TikTok. And those are things that Instagram, those are things that like from like a privacy and risk officer perspective, I have a hard time with. I'm just like being open here. I really struggle with those things. So I'm doing a lot of reevaluation right now because it's the end of year for my company and like doing Q4 lookbacks and like retros and all whatever freaking tech word we want to use to call, like, I'm just trying to be like, what worked and what isn't working and what can we do better? Same thing goes for the podcast. I would just say this is a great time of year for any small business owner. Do the work right now of like, no, it's like we're right close as we're recording. It's like really close to Thanksgiving in the United States. And then we're getting really close to like the holiday season in full blown swing. I mean, where I live in Texas, we literally like, it was Halloween, and then the next day everybody had their decorations out, which was early for me, but fun too.
We heard
at night.
Christmas music on the radio before Halloween. I'm like,
actually,
okay.
On a really unrelated anecdote, I was on vacation in Hawaii, and I was there on Halloween, and I was buying stuff for like an event for like my small business and getting stuff together. And so I happened to just be like at a store, like a big box store, buying stuff. And I walk in on Halloween, and I'm expecting people to be dressed up, and they were, which was like great. And so they're dressed up. But they're dressed up in Halloween outfits and they're playing Christmas music. And I said something to the sweet associate that was helping me check out. And I was like, wow, I'm really surprised that they're not playing like Spooky Skeleton or like Monster Mash or like any of the stuff, I'm blasting on the golf cart here when I'm local for Halloween. And she was like, yeah, I was really hopeful that they would maybe stick to one day of no Christmas music. And I was like, how long has it been on? And she was like, I believe it started the first week of August.
Not even Christmas in July.
Associates already like in a tropical island location where like it didn't feel like wintertime at all. She was a saint.
As somebody who's worked in retail, like the Christmas playlist was the worst. And back then it was 1 month at most. So yeah, my thoughts go out to them.
5 months a year.
Yeah, that's ridiculous. Anyway, so yeah, I would love to, those of you who are watching and listening to us at any point in time, obviously we won't leave this open forever, but
Google form.
Yeah. Just to understand which episode types you like the best and, which type of guests you would like more of. Would you like more security or more compliance, or maybe the mix is perfect? How else can we engage? Like, are there specific social media platforms? Is there a desire to talk to other audience members of this podcast? What other locations do you go to for learning about security? Like, I don't necessarily want to be repeating the same things that you're hearing on other podcasts, or because, different perspectives are good. Don't get me wrong. It's good to have different perspectives, but, should we do more late breaking news? Hey, here's the latest thing. Great example. We have an episode that's more or less outlined, ready to record, about the Chinese hacking and what's going on there. And part of it was driven by 60 Minutes, I think it was, had a big news interview about that. And I'm like, this is a good conversation to have. And our focus has been on not for security people specifically, but for a broader audience than just that. Because this is something that is now on mainstream news. It's out there in front of, people who watch nothing but network news, which I don't know exists anymore as a group.
It exists.
We just have a lot of questions like that.
Streaming service, and we're all paying 3 times as much as we used to when we had cable.
That's a topic for a whole different podcast, not just a different episode, but I could rant on that too.
It's actually, I've got a tool for that. You're going to be interested in that one. But yeah, I think I am finally ready for us to say SYFI signal. I'm finally ready for us to say senior year F it. We now have a signal community. We've been talking about that in, like, you and I, again, two perfectionists walk into a podcast. We have a podcast, and we're both truly perfectionists, and it just holds us back in our day-to-day sometimes of just being like, hey, you know what? Screw it. Like, we're a startup. You need to just try it and see it and break it. The problem is for you and I, when we're really like, we are scared to break it because we know the worst case scenario, which, hopefully a bunch of, our socializing security guests, they're not going to break it. The people that are listening to us, the people downloading, which, you know what? Love it. If you've automated downloads for us, we appreciate you. Thank you so much, because that helps our metrics. So automate it, set it and forget it. What are other mantras I could use for that? Instead of being like, subscribe and like my channel, because when I hear that, it gives me the ick. But
Yeah,
Signal,
we're not generally
free
self-promoters.
communities, like obviously, like we have our own internal, we do our own socializing security thing, but we also have, I want the Socializing Security Network. I know we workshopped on words, so I'm saying that live here, but Brian's going to give me feedback specifically later on what exactly the brand is for that. I believe it's been on multiple past episodes, so I'm pretty sure we've committed. Do you remember?
No. That's part of our failure in this.
I believe it was the Socializing Security Network that will be
lean
the
into
name.
the confusion with social security and just go with SSN.
I think we should lean into that, yes, because it's kind of part of the brand. Because I really laugh that sometimes when I'm using, OpenAI's ChatGPT and I'm using that to do, edits and stuff like that, I am always pleasantly surprised when the edits come back and is autocorrecting socializing security to social security. And I'm like, no. For legal reasons, we really, really can't have that type of edit and mistake mess up.
Yeah. I know LinkedIn groups is another potential place to do things. So we just want to get a sense for what works for people.
LinkedIn groups.
Because we've got the technology to ask you, and why shouldn't we? And better understand what people actually want from us. Because
so I think
have no
there's
desire to make stuff just to make stuff.
No, we also just frankly don't have time for that. I think because we had this, remember we were like brought into some other like Slack community at some point that was like a good human that was trying to do something fun, and I think it fizzled immediately. I think doing that, if it's not your full-time thing, is really hard to do. I get added to different Slack communities, and then I jump in and I'm like, why am I here?
Yeah, it is tough. And I've done it around in-person groups. And even then it's tough to develop that when, those in-person groups sometimes are just like, hey, we just want to get together and drink a beer or have a meal or whatever. And that's what I want to get a feel for is what do you want out of it? Because I don't want to create something that isn't going to give people what they want.
What do I want out of it?
No, just the listeners,
okay,
our audience.
On the vibe check.
Well, I mean, obviously we'll get what we want out of it as well.
Okay, the vibe check.
But, we already know what our vibes are. We need to learn everyone else's vibes.
Okay, I was like, wait, the way you're saying that, I was like, is it me?
Because we don't even need a Signal group for the two of us to vibe.
Well, we already have that. It's just called Signal. It's
exactly.
just a DM. It's just directly the two of us. I do think I'm setting up a group because I'm hopeful that we will have some team members that are helping us with stuff. Because I think for me, one of the things, I'm sure we're going to do our commitments for 25. And I kind of already started doing that on my first solo episode that we recorded, where I was kind of like looking back and like what's working and what's not. I will say I want the Signal groups. I think it makes sense to create LinkedIn community groups. LinkedIn is pretty problematic sometimes from like a security perspective. I say that as somebody who uses it as my main platform, but genuinely sometimes I see so I would like to avoid that. I'd say LinkedIn will be our main platform, but it'll be pushing people to join a Signal community group until, for whatever reason, I'm sure Signal breaks and then we'll pick something else. But I would love to do some in-person events where you and I are just actually going to commit to doing live interviews in person. You travel a lot for work. I'll be traveling more for work next year. I think there's no reason why we can't combine those efforts and make sure that if you're like, hey, I'm going to be at XYZ thing, there's no reason why I also couldn't be there, because we both have our own things and we're doing that. And I would love to then have socializing security events where maybe we could do a live show.
Anything's possible. I mean, we trialed doing it at RSA and it worked out really well. So, maybe
Or check out those episodes. If you're just joining us for whatever reason in the 70s and you're like, hey, some of my favorite episodes, go check out the RSA episodes. Those were pretty fun and wild because this was actually a time where Brian was significantly more spontaneous than I felt comfortable with. So if you want to see me really uncomfortable on our shorts or anything, you can just check in with the ones that I was like, I was not expecting to be sitting at a stage in the middle of a lobby. I'm still a little pissed that happened that way, but it was fine.
It worked out. It was great content. But yeah, we proved that we can roll with things, literally run into somebody on the show floor and sit and grab them and say, hey, you come record an episode with us. We had a mobile kit that worked pretty decently. Definitely some improvements to be made, but the content's what really matters at that point. We captured that well. So there's a lot of trial and error we've already done that I think, maybe we say starting with RSA next year, we roll into doing more of those type of in-person type things, which I would love to do. And, we'll just have to kind of roll with it and see how it works out with, crossing podcasts and work schedules is not always the easiest thing to do, but we'll figure something out.
Yeah, I have more flexibility than you do in that just because of how my work is shaping up. But you never know.
Yeah.
Obviously, we got to make sure that it makes sense for our day jobs since this is, again, just a hobby that we do for fun. But I say that as, I'd be curious too, Brian, what are you forecasting for us for sponsorships for 26?
Yeah. I mean, I would like us to have some sponsorships. So this is, we're not necessarily going to pay to the point to quit our jobs. I don't think anytime in 26, or maybe even ever in the future.
You know what? If somebody's listening and, wants to do that for both of us, we'd love that. Back to the days where artists were commissioned kind of, right? Like kind of worked on commission.
And, there was a time when artists, they worked on commission. They would go out there and they would show their work, and rich people would be like, hey, I want to give you a bunch of money and I want you to do this thing. Or a church would pay for a famous artist to sit upside down for, I don't know, 5-10 years and paint.
Yeah, like
paint the ceiling of the church.
Michelangelo or Picasso, or this was
Mhm.
the what is that called in the art world? This was really there's the Renaissance, right? Obviously, and then there's also like anytime there was a major change in the art world on the history side. For those of you that don't know, art history was actually one of my things that I studied in college. It was my specialty. So anytime there was a large change in the political like tension between two different things or two different sides, that's usually when we see some of the best art in history. That's just generally how it's gone, dating back to, I think, even like Middle Ages and even before that. Generally, when there was a large shift or change, art is how we express ourselves.
Mhm.
Brian and I do it on a podcast, so we express ourselves here.
Totally agree with that. So yeah, if there's somebody out there that has, $500,000 burning a hole in their pocket and they want to pay for us to do this full time, I'm all up for that. I'm actively looking for retirement plans. So that would be a nice retirement plan at that point.
Oh yeah, for sure. I was recently chatting with a friend of ours, the friend of the podcast actually, Eric Zentera. So he and I were just chatting recently, and he and I were joking about his future retirement plans in Hawaii. So I know he'll be happy that he got a shout out here. So if anybody wants to help us retire early, I'm really open to the conversation and really interested. But should we be so lucky? In the meantime, I think we did have a couple companies reach out to us this year, and we just weren't ready yet.
Yeah. And our goal really is, from a sponsorship perspective, is to, one, we have to figure out how to work it in without being, too disruptive. I think there's plenty of evidence on how different podcasts have done things over the years. And I don't think that's going to be a problem. It's just going to be a matter of picking a lane. The other part of it ends up being, we just want to cover some of the costs so that it's not something that we're paying for platforms, hopefully paying for editors soon. And that's something that we want to be able to push those costs aside, hopefully completely, and
support other artists. If you and I are the content creators here, but if we can also bring in a really amazing videographer, if we can bring in somebody that's great at mics. Sorry, I know your family is way more into the theater space, so you're going to be better on the like set design, all that stuff. Those words are new to me. But if we're thinking about some of how do we take this from a you and I kind of podcast to Perfectionists walk into a podcast, two Perfectionists have a podcast, have been doing it almost for 2 years. I think we posted our first episode about a year and a half ago as we're recording. So we're not new kids on the block anymore. We actually, compared to some of the other podcasts that I follow for my work stuff, have been amazed to see that our production numbers are way higher than some of the other ones that I listen to.
Yeah. So I think that's probably the biggest goal on that front for next year, is to continue with the quality and the consistency that we've proven that we can do. It's a little challenging on the back end sometimes, but on the front end, hopefully you've appreciated that, and to put it into a place where we can make this a little bit more sustainable for the two of us. I guess one other aspect of things that I think I'll put into this vibe questionnaire.
Vibe check. That's what we're going with, but yes.
Is, a lot of podcasts are moving to more of a Patreon type model. And
I was about to go there too. I was literally about to say it, so I'm glad you brought it up.
And that is one of the models of, the old art world of doing patrons. And, you essentially had somebody that more or less gave you creative freedom to go do whatever you needed to go do. And, they would benefit at it. In some ways, it was for the broader world to enjoy. So that's an area I would definitely like to explore as well. Cool. Well,
I'm laughing. No, before we close down, I'm laughing because I'm in charge of the button. This is one of the back end things that Brian and I have weird, I don't know, there's an anxiety between cutting the other one off for the button, specifically to just like hit
We've
start
had some
or
problems
end.
with that.
But before we close out and Brian steals over my button clicking because it was mine today, I will say for me, as we're wrapping up this week's episode, 2026 is going to be the automation station. We are going to automate more on the podcast. And so if you're curious about what we're going to be doing.
Let's do an edit point there. I got distracted.
You missed a really nice hand signal. I'm happy to do it again.
I wasn't looking at the screen.
I saw that and I was like, it's fine. I'm just going to keep going because I have the still
No,
here.
You did the right thing, but I felt bad about that. And I also accidentally clicked my camera off.
We're keeping this in there because it's part of the podcast. So there you go. I'm going to repeat myself. Just nope. We're not doing it. It's not getting edited out. This one specifically to Brian or Milou in the future, whichever one of us is editing this episode, this one is not an edit point. This is a particularity of the podcast that just shows you a little bit behind the curtain, which is what I think we're hoping to do in this one. So as I close out today's episode specifically, and I will take on the record stop button, 26, or nearing the end of 2025 as we record, I'm sure as this gets published, automation station is where we're moving forward. I just redid the hand motion. So if you're not a visual person or you're not watching us on YouTube or wherever you watch your content, just imagine somebody doing like the rainbow. Like, I think that's one of like a millennial thing. But anyways, the rainbow, we're doing imagination station is where that's coming from. Automate, because we are fortunate that the platform we use keeps pushing better automation. We work in Riverside. I have no issue that people know that. I like the platform. I like the technology. It's getting a lot better. That being said, I still use and supplement and use other technologies to actually make our work easier. And we need to make sure that you and I also are like helping other people as we bring on, hopefully, other people. In 26, it's going to be automate, so that you and I can just come and record and have fun, and then everybody else can help us just look good on the internet.
People who enjoy doing that work more than we do.
I mean, I think you and I both love doing that work. I just think we're too busy.
Yeah. I mean, there's an element of enjoy doing it once in a while, and having to do it on a weekly or biweekly basis is not the thing I would want to do.
It's a lot. It's a lot. So, okay, as we close out, thank you all. If you listened to this whole episode, we appreciate you, and we will figure out how to continue to socialize with you all in 2026. And I am forecasting some pretty exciting things for us. I know, look at me just talking like a tech person. That was just so like tech speak. So apologies for that. But anyways, for those of you that have been listening this whole time, you're the best. For those of you that are new, welcome. Thanks for socializing with us. And we'll catch you on the next one.
Take care, everybody. Thank you for joining us for another episode of Socializing Security. We hope you learned a thing or two with us.
If you'd like to continue socializing with us on this topic or have feedback, we'd love to hear from you on LinkedIn or social media. Just search for Socializing Security. Or you can email us at info@socializingsecurity.com.
Until next time, stay social and stay secure.